After my wife left for another man, I rebuilt my life and they're paying the price. I never imagined I'd be where I am now. If you told me 2 years ago that I'd be thriving after my wife left me for another man, I probably would have laughed in your face, or cried, depending on the day. But life has a funny way of turning things around, often when you least expect it. So let me take you back to the beginning, the day my world collapsed, or at least, that's what it felt like at the time. My wife, Sarah, not her real name, but let's go with it for the sake of the story, and I had been married for 10 years. A whole decade. That's a long time to share your life with someone, and I really believed we were solid. We had our ups and downs like any couple, but overall, I thought we were happy. Sure, things had been a little distant recently, but I chalked it up to the usual stressors of life: work, bills, family obligations. The usual. Then came that conversation. The one I never saw coming, but looking back, maybe I should have. It was a Saturday morning. We were sitting at the kitchen table, and she seemed off. I asked her if she was okay, expecting maybe she was just having a bad day or something, but instead, she hit me with the truth like a sledgehammer. I don't think I'm in love with you anymore. Just like that. No preamble. No warning signs that I'd really paid attention to. I felt the ground beneath me give way. In that moment, I couldn't even process what she was saying, let alone comprehend what it meant for our marriage. I asked her what she meant, and her answer was even worse than I'd feared. I've been seeing someone else. My stomach dropped. Someone else? What did she mean by someone else? She couldn't possibly be talking about cheating, could she? I felt like I was going to be sick. When I asked her who, she hesitated before finally admitting it. The other man was someone I knew, someone I had trusted, one of my old high school friends. Let's call him John. Now, John and I had drifted apart over the years, but we still stayed in touch here and there. The occasional Facebook comment or text message, nothing deep, but I still considered him a friend. To hear that my wife had not only been cheating but had been doing it with someone I knew and once considered a friend, I felt like the world had gone sideways. I asked her how long it had been going on. Turns out, it wasn't just a one-time thing or some fling. They'd been seeing each other for months behind my back. Months. All the little signs I had missed suddenly made sense: the late nights at work, the sudden increase in girls' nights out, and her growing emotional distance from me. I felt like an idiot for not seeing it sooner. But that's the thing about hindsight, it's always crystal clear, isn't it? After she told me, we sat there in silence. I think she expected me to yell or throw something or maybe beg her to stay. But I didn't do any of that. I just sat there, numb. My mind was racing with 1,000 different thoughts, but none of them could find solid ground. What was I supposed to say? How do you even respond to something like that? All I could do was nod, get up from the table, and walk out of the house. I didn't know where I was going, but I couldn't stay there. I couldn't be near her, not after what she had just told me. I ended up driving around for hours that day, not really going anywhere in particular. I pulled into random parking lots, sat in my car, and just stared out the window, trying to figure out what the hell had just happened to my life. My wife of 10 years, the woman I had built my life around, had been cheating on me with someone I used to call a friend. It felt like my entire world had come crashing down, and I didn't know how to pick up the pieces. For the next few weeks, I was a mess. I stayed with my brother for a while, trying to figure out what to do next. Sarah moved in with John almost immediately after she left me, which felt like another slap in the face. It was like she had been waiting for the moment she could escape, and once she had her chance, she didn't waste any time. I couldn't believe that the life I had known was over, just like that. During those early days, I went through the usual stages of grief. First came denial. I refused to believe that my marriage was really over. I kept hoping that Sarah would come to her senses, realize she had made a mistake, and come back to me. Then came anger. Oh, I was furious. How could she do this to me? How could he do this to me? I started blaming myself, wondering if there was something I had done to push her away, something I could have done differently to keep her. But that didn't last long, because deep down, I knew that this wasn't my fault. She made her choices, and so did John. Eventually, after a lot of soul-searching, I came to a place of acceptance. My marriage was over, and there was nothing I could do to change that. Sarah had made her decision, and whether or not it was the right one for her, it was final. That was when I realized that the only thing I could control was how I responded to it. I could either let this destroy me, or I could use it as an opportunity to rebuild my life. I chose the latter. It didn't happen overnight, of course. There were a lot of ups and downs along the way. I had good days where I felt like I was finally moving on, and I had bad days where I wanted to curl up in bed and never leave. But little by little, I started to focus on myself again. I threw myself into work and ended up getting a promotion, which gave me the motivation to keep going. I also started hitting the gym regularly, something I hadn't done in years. It wasn't just about getting into shape, though that was a nice bonus. It was about having something to focus on, something that made me feel like I was in control of my life again. I reconnected with old friends, started going out more, and even picked up a few new hobbies that I had put on the back burner during my marriage. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was living for myself again. It was liberating. Meanwhile, I didn't hear much from Sarah after she left. We went through the legal stuff with the divorce, but once that was settled, we didn't really keep in touch. I figured she was living her dream life with John, and I didn't want any part of it. I didn't stalk her on social media or ask mutual friends how she was doing. I was focused on me. But life has a funny way of giving you closure when you least expect it. A few months ago, I ran into a mutual friend of ours, someone who still keeps in touch with Sarah. We got to talking, and he casually mentioned that things weren't going so well between her and John. Apparently, they've been having a lot of issues, mostly about money. John isn't exactly the responsible type, and it sounds like the reality of being with him isn't living up to whatever fantasy Sarah had in her head. They've been fighting constantly, and according to this friend, Sarah has even mentioned regretting some of the choices she made. Now, I'm not going to lie, hearing that was satisfying. I'm not proud of it, but I'd be lying if I said it didn't feel like a little bit of karma. She left me, thinking she was going to have this perfect life with John, and now it turns out they're struggling while I'm thriving. I'm not saying I'm perfect or that I have it all figured out, but I'm in a much better place now than I was 2 years ago. I guess the moral of the story is this: sometimes life doesn't go the way you planned, and sometimes the people you trust the most betray you in ways you never expected. But at the end of the day, you have a choice. You can let it destroy you, or you can use it as a stepping stone to something better. I chose the latter, and I'm damn glad I did. Enjoyed the story? Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss new content. Share your thoughts and ideas in the comments. I'd love to hear what you think and what you'd like to see next. And if you want to keep watching more videos like this one, just click on the next video. See you there.